practice, we will look at a supported supine twist. That's where we take the body into a twist, lay on your back. For our variation, we're going to use 2 blankets. We're going to offer 2 different styles of brick, and we'll come to that shortly, and then a bolster too. Let's come to the bricks first of all, just taking our blankets to one side. We're going to use the bricks as a pillow, so we're using them to support the head and neck. Now again, dependent on how broad and how thick the body is, it's going to depend on how high we want to have the brick. For myself, I might use a thinner brick, but then if I do so, the blanket that comes on top is going to come away from a large rectangular fold to a much smaller rectangular fold, because I'm going to need that extra degree of height to help support the head and the neck, so there's not too much stretch around this area. For others, they're going to feel that they need a thicker brick to support the head. Let's just place that second brick to one side for now. So once we set up our pillow that is going to support the head, we'll smooth out any folds and creases like we have before. And then the second blanket, as we've used now many times before, is going to come to rest either in between the legs, or we can use it to wrap the lower legs, so we have that extra degree of support and comfort underneath the knees and then running through the legs too. Bolster is going to act as a support for the twist, so that we don't feel the body is flailing unsupported in the air. Let's take the blanket and let's place the first blanket then between the legs, so we feel that extra degree of comfort and support for the legs to rest on top of one another. Slowly walking down to rest onto your right shoulder, and then rest the right hand side, the head and the cheek resting down onto the blanket, reaching the right arm forwards. And then to bring us into the twist, the bolster is going to come right up against the back, and then our left arm is going to twist backwards and it rests on top of the bolster. I can feel a small degree of stretch across the waist, but otherwise I feel very supported to just rest my body here for a moment. Now for many people, they would require more of a sensation to work with, and that's absolutely fine. But be aware when we make these modifications that we are drifting closer towards stretching the body. And that stretch sensation can maybe lead us out of the practice unless we use it as a means to anchor the mind. So remember, as always, deeper isn't better, more stretch isn't better, more sensation isn't more advanced. We're simply using the sensation as an anchor for the mind and making sure that we select a degree of sensation that we can still find a sense of ease in. So the second variation, and one that I teach often, so here we come into the twist, and we can place a bolster underneath the legs towards the front, so there's an extra degree of support. We can take a second bolster and we can rest it across the opposing shoulder and arm. This gives us that sense of being really weighted down, bedded down. There is a third variation where we take the stretch sensation even further, and this would be to place the bolster on top of the legs in the twist, and then the second bolster, as we just have, across the opposing shoulder and arm. Now in this variation, there is going to be the greatest degree of stretch sensation. Again, for some, accessing that won't feel uncomfortable at all, and in fact can feel very comforting, very supportive, and also anchoring as they feel the stretch. Just remember that that does require quite a good degree of flexibility to find ease and comfort in such a challenging posture. Before we start today's practice, I encourage you to practice this on both sides. When we come into these supine twists, we often find there's a great variance between the right side and the left side. And what we really want to do within our practice, particularly restorative practice, is create a greater sense of balance and harmony. So rather than really stretch one side that feels more open and maybe support the other side a little more, let's try to treat both sides in a similar manner. And if that means maybe reining one side in, let's do that, just for the purpose of today's practice. So just taking your time to settle down into the posture, first of all coming down onto the right shoulder, arranging the bolsters to add that extra layer of support or stretch. And then once you feel settled, bringing your awareness to the whole body. And then willfully relaxing the whole body. Feeling your arms get heavier. And that gentle stretch across the stomach begin to soften. And now I invite you to bring your awareness to the breath. Just tuning into the raw sensation of the inhale and the exhale. Maybe noticing where you feel it the most in your body. And now bringing your awareness back to the body. Noticing if there are any areas where you can find a greater sense of ease. Maybe relaxing the muscles of the face or softening the shoulders. Or even just allowing your arms and legs to become heavier. Taking your time just to take the bolsters to one side. Keeping your eyes closed for a few extra moments as you slowly make your way back into a seated position. Keeping the gaze turned inward and focused solely on yourself. When you're ready, slowly make your way over to the other side. Bringing in the props to add that extra degree of support, and then slowly lowering down onto the left shoulder. As you do so, encourage the shoulder blades to separate. And as the head rests down onto the pillow and the support, bring your right shoulder back and come into the twist. And here, noticing the support that you have from the props and the mat, the firmness of the floor. And then willfully relaxing into that support, softening the breath. And then as we begin to draw our practice to a close, start to deepen the breath. As you do so, you can start to move the bolsters and the props to one side, bringing more aliveness into the fingertips and the hands, the shoulders, and then eventually the torso. I encourage you to keep the gaze turned down or even your eyes closed. Slowly make your way onto all fours, and then let's bring some movement back into the back, arching the spine and rounding the spine, lifting the head and lowering the head. And then eventually when you're ready, let's come into a seated posture to bring our practice to a close. Thank you for joining me.